obviously you always do a recap, and ball screen defense, we weren't really a presence at all in the ball screen defense. Using our terminology, we had 11 blow-bys, which means they got to the front of the rim. Those small plays that we had talked about in the press conference afterwards, looked at the free throw block out, the baseline, and then you always look at the positives too. Like, I don't think it's just you beat it up. So offensive execution, the game called by Howard Isley and then executed by both point guards was well done. And then you close the book on that, and you start on Michigan State. So ball screen defense would be where I would come out on that.
We'll move over to Michael Cohen from the Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Phil, in terms of some of those blow-bys and trying to address that, I guess, between now and Tuesday night, is that something that is more schematic-based or more like human-based, where the guys just need to try and anticipate better or move quicker or something like that, as opposed to an X's and O's change?
No, at this time of the year, you're not going to do much X's and O's change, but our package is so big that we have to pick out what will work in those individual games. So, for instance, in the Illinois game, we had to address Frazier and Plummer because of their extraordinary shooting numbers. In the Michigan State game, Hogard and Walker. Now, Walker is shooting the ball very well, but Hogard is exceptional playing off the ball screen and creating for others, not so much the shooting. So we'll gather as a staff and say, okay, here's our primary look. And I think being introspective, and I know that this is something that I'll stay with my original thought, maybe a player too long, right? And being introspective, I thought, well, maybe we should have gone to a more aggressive switching style yesterday earlier. With Michigan State, it's okay. What is it against? What will be the difference between Walker, who is shooting the ball well in the last several games, and he's coming in off of a game winner against Purdue? Do we have to dress him differently than Hogard? And we're not there yet. We will make that decision before we meet with the team at 3:15.
Thank you.
Slide over to Andrew Kahn with M Live.
Hey, Phil, first, just for context, like, how many blow-bys, like, is there a number you
11.
don't, like, typically in a game do you allow?
That's a really good question. I don't know that.
Okay.
I mean, because that really goes through Sadi, and I know that yesterday when we were debriefing, Sadi said that's a really high number.
Okay.
And if you look at if you obviously you look at our games, it's never been something where I thought, wow, we're getting hurt on this game in and game out. But it was evident, the combination, the blow by,
Mhm.
and then not having rim protection.
Right.
So we're going to talk about that with both Musa and Brandon and Hunter, that there has to be some resistance at the rim, because we're not going to be perfect guarding Michigan State or Iowa or Ohio State at the point of attack.
Okay. And then as far as, we always talk to the players, the freshmen or out-of-state guys about their indoctrination, I guess, into the Michigan State rivalry. But, for you, a lifelong Philadelphian? Can you speak to how you kind of became more familiar, obviously playing, working for a boss who knows it very well?
Well, I would say that that Chris Hunter and Juwan Howard carry this one. Like, if it's on their sleeve, then that's where they carry this one. And having been so ingrained in Philadelphia, and I understand what it's like to play the Temples or the Villanovas, but I think what's extraordinary here is that the run of successes that each of these programs has had, and not that they do it different, but there's a sense, like, even when you mention it to a manager or a support staff, the Michigan State, well, that's different. I was like, well, why is it different than, and isn't the Purdue game's really big, and these teams are nationally ranked. And so I've marveled at it, and I appreciate it. And I think that in this game, when you have an opportunity and you feel like you're competing, like, almost over the water cooler, if there is such a thing anymore, of a water cooler where one guy walks up and says go green and the other one says go blue, and for that moment in time, so you're playing for more than just your team. And I think that's a neat thing. I really do. I think it's healthy. And and I do think these rivalries are healthy. We all know that some of these rivalries throughout the country they're not healthy. It's not sport. It has to be taken serious, and there has to be a competition. But when it crosses over, I have not felt that. And I say this with caveat. Tom Izzo is a longtime friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's done some things. We've done some things together for the NABC. He's done some things for me at different times. When I was going through a tough time, wondering what was I going to do, that guy was on the phone with me almost every other day. So, but anybody out there, Andrew, everybody that reads you, they've gone in the backyard and they've played tackle football against their brother or their cousin or the kid across the street who they considered like a brother. And man, nobody wants to lose that one, because it's more than a loss. It stays with you until you beat them. So as long as it's healthy.
Right. Thanks.
Coach, will move over to Jack Doles from Wood TV.
Phil, I don't believe any team has ever gotten into the tournament with an at-large bid with more than like 3 games over 500. How do you get you guys ready for the weight of the pressure that's coming here in the couple of you got 3 regular season games and whatever's left in the Big Ten tournament?
Nope, doesn't happen. Not worth it. It's not worth it. There are people that are going to sit in a room and judge your resume. So what our responsibility is to build that resume up. So it really is. It ends up being a waste of time, particularly for young people, to say, well, if we go 2-1, this is going to be good, and if we get to the semifinals of the Big Ten, that's you have no guarantee, you have no control. And it's always been control the controllable here. And what we can control is our effort for this day, and then our effort for tomorrow night. But look, do I think it's natural? And do I think that it's ingenious? It is absolutely, positively ingenious, the way that the committee, the NCAA, has built this thing up. people have been talking about the bubble in college basketball since January 1st. Yes or no, right? Well, this is the bubble and that's the bubble. And look, a dear friend of mine, Joe Lenardi, is a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. He's carved out a living doing this. He's 5'1", but he's carved out a living because he gets the numbers and he works it up. And now ESPN has given him a title, bracketologist. But any effort, any time that's spent worrying, which is really what you would be doing, is time away from the game. We have to improve our game, and we will get our just rewards.
We'll move over to Austin Meek with The Athletic.
Phil, on the ball screen defense, I think Devontae mentioned after the game that he didn't feel like the guards did a great job of helping Hunter out on some of those ball screens. And I don't know what goes into that technically, but did you feel that way when you look back on it? And I guess what adjustments can you make based on the way Michigan State was able to attack Hunter with some of those ball screens in the first meeting?
Well, it's terrific that DJ would say that, but it was a collective effort. It wasn't the guards didn't do for Hunter, because there was times where Hunter didn't do for the guards, and I didn't do for them with regard to an exactness. And that's the word that I like to use. Let's be exact. If the call could be wrong and the call could be defeated, but it has to be exact. So we can't have a guy and a half a guy in the right spot, and then half of that guy saying, well, wait a second, I should. So that's what I saw. I saw us being uncertain, and then the Illinois players taking advantage of that. With regard to the Michigan State attack, it's going to start way before the ball screen, Austin. It's going to start with transition. They had 28 fast break points last game. And we're going to go through all 14 of those baskets today. Because again, it was across the board. It was a guy standing in the backcourt and stabbing. Against Michigan State, we have to first get back. We have to build a wall and not allow the ball into the cracks. So now they spread it around. I mean, maybe it's just me, but it seems very quiet to me. They're the number one three-point shooting team in the Big Ten. They're number one offense and number one defense. So this is one of those games where the line is going to be a really, really big deal. But going back to what was learned from the first game, we better get our backsides, and I'm being PG, we better get our backsides back and build a wall so that we can get settled in. If they're able to attack and our feet are moving, Hunter's feet are moving, then they're going to get downhill. But if we're back and you can envision this idea of a wall being built, then we're going to be fine.
Coach, we'll go back to Michael from the Free Press.
Hey, Phil, two questions for you, but the first one is quick. Did Eli hurt his hand in the game the other day?
I saw him grab his hand, but I didn't talk to him afterwards about it. And I've gotten no report from our athletic trainer that anybody will be sidelined today.
Okay. And then the second question is, in terms of Caleb, in the first meeting with Michigan State, he didn't attempt any threes in the first half. And then yesterday against Illinois, he didn't take one until I think the 8-minute mark of the first half. Is getting him shots earlier something that you guys think about, or does it just depend on the flow of the offense?
We actually go in with a plan on who we would like to highlight early. So Howard Isley has that worked up. Obviously, Caleb's performance against Rutgers, I think, was predicated on an early play where he had a drive to the basket. So, but he's become more patient, if that makes sense. Like he's not a ball chaser anyway, but Him being comfortably settled into the game, that was not an issue yesterday. I think going back to the previous answer, we have to go in here acknowledging Michigan State's 3-point defense. And you know what? Sometimes you have to go after their strength. And so Caleb's offense will be a big focal point of our offensive game plan for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a return question from Andrew Kahn from MLive as well.
Well, I want to ask about Brandon Johns, given that, this week you'll play your final home games. Yeah, I know you weren't around when, he got recruited and you missed his first year or whatever, but you've seen him play a lot. Like, I know it might be hard to assess someone's entire career in a brief time here on Zoom, but if you could take a crack at it, I'd appreciate it.
I think Brandon is like a soda, like you shake that soda up, right? We all did this, right? And then we look and and you got to slowly open it or open it quick. That's what it seems to me with Brandon. I think that there have been moments of brilliance. I thought his tournament run last year on Isaiah Livers, I thought it was just terrific. And the year before with Xavier Simpson, our first year, like going into Madison Square Garden, scoring 20, and then hoping that you get that magic as you go. I think his embracing of how to practice I don't know John Beeline's practice. I don't know what that was like. But just watching Brandon kind of absorb Juwan and you can see it, that look like his want. And sometimes that gets in the way. He wants to be perfect. And I've had some interesting conversations with him about, coming to Michigan and what was he like as a high school player and what were his choices. And one of the beautiful things is he said, I've never regretted a day. And I thought it's pretty good because there've been ups and downs, right? And so that's a tribute to him understanding that there's a big picture here with regard to being a Michigan player.
Thanks. And then I guess the same question for Adrian. I mean, another guy who there were times where he started, but other times his impact is more behind the scenes, I guess.
Yeah, Adrian. Now that's a different story because I very, 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 very aggressively recruited him.
Okay.
So when I got here, it was Eli and Adrian that I knew. Like I had been intimately involved in their recruiting, both Adrian and Eli. And I've marveled at Adrian's academics. So he's one of my, I guess, mentees, right? If there's a mentor and a mentee. So he's one of the guys that I have come in once a week and talk academics. And it's never longer than a sentence because he's done so remarkably well and has such an appreciation, as does his family, for being a Michigan graduate. And in basketball, Juwan asked us to do the same thing. So I stayed with him and early on that first year and he started. And then he didn't play. And that got to him that year. I mean, it wasn't great back end of the year. And then last year, he was just terrific. He still to this day shoots like extra time in the mornings and comes in for practice in the afternoons. And last year to get basketball. He volunteered to go on the scout team. This year, it's the same thing, like works really hard at the game. And the hope is that, you know, you just hope that one time he's going to hit one of those shots, and it's all going to open up for him.
So he tells you his grades are good. Do you just send him on his way then, or you're like, oh well, while you're
Oh,
here,
no,
let's talk.
I have the report.
Right.
I have the report right in front of me, that his grades are, yeah, they're more than good.
Yeah, I guess I just mean you have then that time. Do you? Are you talking?
Oh,
other
we talk
things then?
hoops, we talk.
Yeah.
Look, it's well known. We talk business. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I mean, I really don't. But how he has been able to compartmentalize his time and to take care of this growing business venture, he was way ahead of name, image, and likeness. Way ahead.
All right, thanks.
Coach, it looks like we got one more from you from Bob Wojnarowski from the Detroit News.
Hey, Phil, you mentioned your friendship relationship with Tom Izzo over the years. What is the one thing, or maybe obviously more than one thing, that you admire about how his teams play, and the thing that you can always expect from them when you play them?
They're going to check your fillings. Every play, they're going to check your fillings. They're going to be up. They're from afar, even before I knew Tom, and that grew through the NABC. I should think that it's just relentless. It's every single play, and across the board. And now watching them up close, boy, you know what? If anybody goes with if their sneakers aren't tied tight, can't play in this game. You cannot play in this game. And I think the other thing would be their total insistence. Their total insistence that their teams push the pace. Because before you get up close and personal, you think, well, is it all power? Is it all physicality? And I can remember one of our first meetings, and we were just talking about generalizations, and I would say to Sadi, who's the fastest team in the Big Ten? He goes, oh, it's not even close. It's Michigan State. And now after watching the tape, and it was brought up earlier, you know, the 28 fast break points, it's every play. It's the relentlessness is the thing that I admire the most.